Welcome to Independent.ie. We're looking at the budget with Charlie Weston and Sinead Ryan. I'm Donal O'Donovan, and you guys have been looking very deep and very hard at this afternoon's budget. Charlie Weston, in terms of what we've seen today, who are the winners and who are the losers?
Well, the winners, I suppose, are the self-employed. They've got another €150 of a tax credit, basically. That's an amount that they won't have to pay every year in tax. It's called the earned income credit. Home carers are getting some extra tax credit as well, an extra €100 for what's called the home carers tax credit. So if you're at home minding children or an incapacitated person, you're getting an extra bit of tax relief there. And I suppose some pensioners will do okay from some changes to prescription charges. The Christmas bonus is back. There's a lot of losers then as well. So it's the losers will be people who motorists, because they're going to be more from tonight fuel and diesel and petrol costs go up, and home heating oil will go up due to the carbon tax changes, peat, etc. The carbon tax is going up by an extra €6 a tonne. Smokers are going to be hit with an extra 50 cents on the pack of 20. And so they're losers. One other gainer is people who have an asset to pass on to children. They're getting an extra tax-free threshold. It goes to €330,000, the capital acquisitions tax-free threshold.
It's the heir who gains there, obviously.
It's the heir rather than the parent, yeah. So, but basically, this is a value of an asset that can be passed on to a child before tax is paid. So that is a big benefit to people, particularly in Dublin, who have a decent house. It's usually a house they want to pass on to children. There's a bigger tax threshold there, tax-free threshold.
Sinead Ryan, three kind of big issues facing the country at the moment. There's obviously the climate change, climate emergency. There is Brexit, and there's also the housing crisis. How has Paschal Donoghue addressed those kind of three issues?
Well, carbon was well flagged as being a key part of this budget, because there is a government promise to get the carbon tax up to €80 per tonne by 2030. Now, we're only a third of the way there. It's €26, so that is going to hit people on home heating oil, as Charlie said, and indeed electricity. And we import all of our oil, 100% of it, into Ireland, remember. But it'll also hit people in their cars, of course, first and foremost. So probably an extra euro to 1.15 per tank of petrol, depending on whether it's petrol or diesel. So they're going to feel that from midnight tonight.
The carbon tax is supposed to be a stick, I suppose. It's not in theory a revenue-raising measure. Is that enough to force people to change the way they live?
Well, I think what's more interesting is that they're going to ring-fence the income from it. Now, it makes a big difference. We know from history that money going into central funds rarely is left there, or to be used for the purpose for which it was intended. So to actually announce they're going to ring-fence it and use it for e-friendly projects is probably the best part of this. There'll be new charging points put in for electric cars. Taxi drivers will get a little bit of an extra fillip if they change to electric cars, but to be honest with you, I still think there's a lot of range anxiety out there, and it'll take a lot more than that to get us all driving electric.
And in the housing crisis, has he moved the dial on housing?
Housing crisis, a lot of this was stuff that was pre-announced, so 11,000 social houses being delivered, which is not the same as being built. In the housing market, there's additional supports for the HAP scheme and for emergency accommodation, but again, that helps the hotel sector, it helps landlords. It doesn't actually build more houses in that respect. In terms of an extra allowance going to the Residential Tenancies Board, who currently have plenty of powers to go after rogue landlords or people who are fiddling with the rent pressure zone limits. However, they've always said they didn't have enough money to pursue them. They've been given it. We'll wait and see.
Charlie, what would you like to have seen in this budget that you didn't see?
Would have liked to see more for the ordinary working people in terms of the tax they pay, the income tax. Essentially, the system has been held up by ordinary taxpayers, income taxpayers. Something like €31 billion is raised from income taxes, USC, PRSI, and that's 3 times what comes in from corporation tax. So there's no change there. So if you get a pay rise this year, you're likely to pay more tax because there's no change to the tax bands. So essentially, you're on a marginal rate of 53%. 53% of any pay rise you get is going to go to the tax man. There's no relief there whatsoever. So would have liked to see a bit on that, because after all, pensioners didn't do too bad. There's an extra 56,000 GP cards for pensioners. So that's a change for them. That'll help them. But the people who go out to work, if both of them go out to work, there's not a lot there for them. Certainly, if one of them stays at home, the home care's tax credit changes. But if both of them go out to work, it's an expensive business paying for childcare. transport is going to be more expensive now. So would have liked to seen some relief for those people who are struggling to make it, especially if they commute and they end up getting a pay rise but end up paying more in tax. They will not be happy.
And Sinead, I mean, there had been an expectation the last couple of years that there was a fiver a week there for pensioners that was being built into maybe expectations. That didn't happen this time.
No, and probably rightly so. It has gone up in successive budgets, but research from the SRI and Pensions Council recently showed that in fact pensioners were the least likely sector to be in poverty, so maybe there was an argument that this time it's divvied out separately. Now, as Charlie said, some pensioners will do much better because we have prescription charges coming down, we have drug payment scheme limits being reduced, and also the extra people who are getting medical cards, so they shouldn't be unhappy by this.
And both of you will be writing extensively on this budget tomorrow, so Sinead Ryan and Charlie Weston, thanks for that.